Everybody, welcome. This has been a weird week, and what you have on my wall is what I had originally intended to do, painting number 43. But then, because of 9/11, I switched everything last time, and I worked on 9/11. So this time, I would like to tell you about the Ottendorfer Library. I'm going to read this to you. You see, the Uffners were a gallery that Eric helped with framing. Eric was a picture framer who worked for different galleries. And one day Arthur came to my house to bring some paintings for Eric to frame. And I was working on an Orchard Street painting. And he saw it, and he and his wife became among the best teachers I ever had, because they really knew art. They understood what was called modern art. They understood primitive art. They understood different kinds of art, but they were very fussy. They had to be perfect art. So they began to criticize me because they loved my work, and they began to sell it. And as a matter of fact, one of the people to whom they sold have a son who contacted me the other day, and he has become a wonderful artist. He does signs, whimsical and brilliant ones. And in one of my programs, I'm going to show his work. Okay? But let me tell you about this. Without glasses, I can't do much talking. The Uffner family owned a highly respected Loring Gallery in Long Island. My husband Eric was one of the picture framers who did the framing of their artwork. One day Arthur Uffner came to our home to bring paintings for Eric to frame. He saw me working on one of my Orchard Street canvases and wanted to see more of my work. And so began a learning for me that no one else except Arthur and Rosemary could have exposed me to. First and foremost, they were highly talented in understanding good work and did not allow any deviation from it. I asked Eric to let me do the weekly deliveries of frames to them, and every Friday I would bring a painting which I was currently working on for their inspection and for their criticism, which always came. I would argue, then think a little, and ultimately agree. Rosemary, Hedy, those 3 women working in the middle, get rid of 2 of them. I can't, they asked me to put them in. You are not selling cottage cheese, you're doing an artwork. They're overbalancing that spot, they have to go. Then Arthur, the corner of the building is off, you have to change it. But I worked so hard on it, changing it would be so much work. I'll put a truck there instead, and then nobody will know. Arthur, do you want to be known as the best primitive painter in New York? But I'm not a primitive painter. Then repaint that corner. I carry their voices in my heart. When I was asked by them to do a city scene of my choice, I picked this area with the old library and its history, and while I worked on it, they offered no advice. By then they had already taught me so much, and I had learned to absorb it. Our 2 families formed a close friendship, which continues to this day. Eric passed away around the same time as Arthur did, and Rosemary and I would call each other and remember times and bring them back into our memory. Mostly we spoke of the time when we would go out to dinner together at Lenny's in Long Beach, where Rosemary taught Eric to put mustard on his potato instead of sour cream, because then he wouldn't gain weight. When I called her the last time, all we talked about was the times together. And their son Danny, who was and still is a special part of us, connected me to her when she was in, I believe, a nursing home. And all we did was speak about the memories we had. And we both cried together. Rosemary, Arthur, so much of my criticism of my own work comes through the air from you, wherever you are. When I look at a painting towards the end, I see you both standing there and telling me what to do next. Let me speak of the two books which I am reading now, which are my teachers at the moment. I once spoke about miracles, that we are miracles. And it was around that time that I got an email from a relative I had not known before, Jose Ospiti Belgray. And he sent me a quote by this man, Tyson, about that we are made of bits of stars that come from the sky when a star diminishes itself, and that we're made of so many different parts of others. And Joni and I sat down and decided we have to buy a book of his work. And we picked one for children, because when it comes to science, we don't have a background. This book, it changed the way I see myself, but it changed the way I see each of us. It took billions of years to collect who we are. We are made of so many different parts. And whereas it made me understand time in a different way, I think in time as seconds and minutes and years. He sees the universe of billions of years of waiting for another shape to appear, which then joins with this shape. And it changes the way I think, because it took so long for me to do anything that I now seem to do perfectly. And people tell me it's perfect, but I know I don't know yet. This book makes me understand infinity. Not technically, I don't know enough. I don't read this book like a novel. I keep going back to it. And at the same time, Dr. Joe Schrant, who had interviewed me years ago, probably not years ago,
4 or 5,
but I keep him in my brain as a learning spot. And what he did was, I'm going to read the title to you. He sent me a book to review before it came out, Unleashing the Power of Respect, the I Am approach. But I've read his things before because his work fascinates me. And I thought, instead of only using it in dealing with people, I'm going to begin to use it in my daily life. And whereas before, I would pick up 3 things and put this here and that there, and always do something wrong. In the middle, I would forget where I put something. Now I take each item, look at it, allow myself to think before I place it somewhere. Because for the first time in my life, I have thinking time. The COVID is here. I don't cook for people. I don't invite people. I don't go anyplace. I have time. I have thinking time. And I do it with respect. And when I speak of my painting, I'm going to tell you how I'm using it for every person in there. Because in this painting, which I feel is going to be the last oil I want to do, in this painting, I want to give complete respect to every person as I explained them to you. Okay? And let me look at what I should still speak about. I changed very much during this week because I've always watched Channel 2 on Sunday mornings. It begins at 9 o'clock, and I find out that I have to change. I always wanted them to pick me as one of their subjects, and they were going to. But then the man who was going to have me speak there and film me found out I wasn't painting in the street anymore. So he said, when she gets back on the street, which I am doing now, I'm doing, and I'll explain it on that painting. But this Sunday morning, I learned things that I wish I didn't have to learn. What they did, they showed people's reactions to the news and to the world we're living in right now. And I found out that people only believe what they want to believe. I asked him once, but when people hear Trump saying things which we know aren't true, doesn't that teach them that other things he says may also not be true? And Greg said, no, because people don't want to be proven wrong. So they would rather follow than to say, I made a mistake. And I think of those words when I think of this Sunday morning program, where people really said they don't believe the press. They don't believe that people stormed the Capitol. It was probably somebody from the press set up people and sent them up there and blamed it on us. And they spoke of how they love Trump because they believe in him. And I come from the time when people believed anything the newspaper said. They were great writers. If somebody studies long enough the people who cause riots. I'm scared. I'm scared because what people on that program said, not because the program wanted them to say it, but because it's what they really believe, then it's not a world that we can survive in. Because if nobody listens to anybody, and people only make up their own ideas, as they do about vaccinations. When my Joni was born, polio was an epidemic of great horror. And every parent who gave birth to a child worried about polio. When Joni was little, the Salk vaccine appeared. I remembered my gratitude. My child will never have polio. And didn't. To this day, I don't know anybody who got polio after the vaccine came. Now, even religious leaders are saying the vaccines against COVID are dangerous. Don't take them. It's hard for me to believe that we've become people who don't take a risk.
Keep going.
And I am afraid of COVID. But I am more afraid of the people who won't take the vaccine. Okay, we'll keep talking. We just had to open the door because we're getting a food delivery for afterwards. The good thing about COVID is I don't cook anymore. Okay? But to go back to this amazing book, I spoke to my grandchild about it, about the fact that maybe we have things which speak to us, of things that parts of our mind carry from other people. I don't mean people now. I mean the cells that we're made of. And I wrote a letter to Tyson. I didn't mail it yet. Asking him if in some way I was led to do the history. Because when I went to the Lower East Side, and Joni said, "Mom, where do I stop?" I said, "Pull over here." And I stayed within those few blocks to do 41 paintings. I went with Eric to Lithuania, where they fled when Hitler overtook Germany. The Jews fled. In Eric's case, it was to Lithuania. And I wrote a journal of every single day there, where we visited the graves. And was I led there? After I read Joni she Googled me and found Revisiting Roots in Lithuania. I had lost it in my computer. I always lose things in the computer and can't find them. But Joni found it in Google from a Lithuanian organization. And that's not all. Just recently, I found another time when I did history. Maybe some of the shreds of stars and people that he speaks about made me begin to write history. I have to learn so much. I hope I keep on living long enough to learn things. Shall we go to the painting?
I will move it over.
Okay. Could we move it, or move me so that I don't show my profile? I don't like my profile.
I'm going to move the camera over.
Shall I go like this?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. First, I have to give you a history of why I'm doing this. When I was 8 years old, and Hitler moved into Vienna, and I was no longer allowed to go to school and be sitting next to Christian children because I was a Jew. And I was told by my parents, you can't go out on the street because people are dangerous. People will hurt you. And my 8-year-old mind couldn't figure out why the people who used to smile at me would want to hurt me. And I figured out the reason, because they didn't know me. And maybe the reason for hate is if people don't know each other. And so I began to draw real people. And it morphed into beginning to paint real people, only real people. And this is going to be probably my last oil painting, because oil is a dangerous medium. Ask my grandchild. He cleaned a canvas for me that had this canvas, and the smell of a liquid which is supposed to be for artists to smell less than turpentine made him dizzy. So there you go. Let me begin. First, my grandchild will eventually become this guy. He really fits in here because his hair is going to be black, but the top is going to be blonde, because I was sent, and she really is my symbol of this period of time. She is my city manager of the city of Long Beach. This is the photo she sent me, with rips in her pants, with a blonde woman with blue eyes in her t-shirt, and this is the first time that a black lady became a city manager of my city. So Jesse is going to be taking a photo of her. I had him pose for me, but it's not a good spot because these two people need, okay, all my paintings are when I try to make movement. And since people always pose standing up, I have to intersect constantly, because then they become like the buildings, up and down. So, as you see this painting growing, you'll see what I'm going to be doing. Now, my daughter has wonderful neighbors. They're going to be in here. And the problem is, on one side, they're all long and thin. I only have 5 minutes? Oh. Okay. If anybody can come up with brainstorms, okay? In this painting, I'm going to have everybody represented of what I want my country to become. At the moment, the Chinese are being ostracized. It's always a different group. So I have a friend who's Irish, and one of her sons married a Chinese woman, and in a calendar that I have where her family is shown, they're lovely little Chinese children. They're going to be coming here. Because Fran, my friend Fran, said something to me. She said, Hedy, you can really enjoy this painting. If you need somebody, but you don't know anybody who fits into that spot, create them. Do this painting to be a symbol of what you want. Now, when Eric took me to paint, you haven't gotten to it yet, Grant Street, when people said, could she put me into the painting? He said, only if you give a story of how you fit in, of how you belong. And everybody in this painting has to give me one. And it is going to become, it'll take a long time. I don't really know how to do it, yes, but I have enough people in my family who can give me wisdom. I want to compose something. First of all, I already know the people who are going to make prints of it. They're the people who made prints of number 92, who are very close friends. And there are going to be prints made of different sizes, because few people could afford the size on a wall. So they have different sizes, and eventually I'll show you everything. But right now, come up with ideas. I was thinking, I want to show what I want this country to become, what I want the world to become. And how do I do it? The painting, yes, but how about what everybody writes? Another website, maybe, where each person, right, has 2 minutes, not 2 websites, okay? But maybe by the time I'm finished, we'll have invented something where it speaks. Where we push a button and she talks. I push a button and he speaks.
You can do that.
Let's see, it'll take a year, at least. If it takes longer, that's okay. I'm only 92. Shall I just say thank you? Does anybody want to read anything?
Yes, I'll read.
Okay.
I guess I can. Alright, let's see.
But move the mask so that we can hear.
I can project.
Oh.
I'm loud. Janine says, hi Hedy, love you.
I love her.
Your son says, you sound great. Volume is fine. Joni and Kenny. Tammy Smith says, it's 7 p.m. Joe Tripp says, good evening, Hedy. Julie says, good evening, Paige family. Love you all. Mary Lou says, hi, cousin Hedy, you look great. Sandy says, love you, Aunt Hedy.
I'm loving it.
Let's see. Hernan says, much love from Hernan and Christopher. Rona says, looking great, Rona and Johanna. Eileen says, love from Paula and Eileen. Sandy says, well done. Tammy says, you know more about the internet than you let on.
Only because I love doing emails with you. Tammy is the one who began me on this. Here is Tammy. Goodbye, everybody. Is it a goodbye? I love all of you. Thank you. See you next Monday.